Jaya Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Vihari Jayo Gopi Janavallabha Jayo Girivaradhari Jayo Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Parajanarvanjana Yamunatira Pranajari Jaya Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jai Prabhupada 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 Jai Prabhupada Jai Guru Maharaj, Guru Maharaj, Guru Maharaj, Jai Pati Prabha, Nitya Gaura, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Radha Madhava ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangam langayate girim Yat kripatamaham vande paramananda madhava Shri Gurudinatharina. So, Haribol everyone, welcome to today's class on Canto 7, Chapter 7. So, it's a very nice canto, this, and very apt actually, because recently the Lord Nrsimhadev movie came out. So, I think a lot of devotees would have gone to have seen that, and it was quite spectacular, I have to say. And it was wonderful seeing the different pastimes actually on screen as if they're happening. And me personally, I do like the when they use animation or graphics or something like that because you don't have to pretend that that particular actor is then or Prahlāda Maharaj or that particular actor is Lord Nrsimhadev. But it was very, very nice, very, very well done. So this chapter is all about when Prahlāda Maharaj is talking to his childhood friends at the school. So I'll start off the chapter just by explaining, going through some of the shlokas and basically giving a little bit of a background. So I think there's a couple of verses from the chapter before. So they say, when the teachers went home to attend their household affairs, the students of the same age as Prahlad Maharaj would call him to take the opportunity for leisure hours for play. So saying when the teachers went home, the students would call Prahlad Maharaj and say, do you want to play? Because that's how children do. They all get together and start playing. So it's Prabhupada says it's seen from the following verses that Prahlad Maharaj is not very much interested in playing. Instead, he wanted to utilize every moment for advancing in Krishna consciousness. So the next shloka says, Prahlad Maharaj, who was truly the supreme learned person, then addressed his class friends in very sweet language. Smiling, he began to teach them about the uselessness of materialistic way of life. Being very kind to them, he instructed them as follows. So in the movie that we watched recently, they had put in a little bit where some of Prahlad Maharaj's friends were being very mean to him and trying to bully him and that. That's not in Srimad Bhagavatam. I think they must have a little bit of artistic license there. So the next shloka actually says, my dear Yudhishthir, all the children were very much affectionate and respectful to Prahlad Maharaj. So whereas in the movie they showed that one or a few of the children were being quite mean to him, but here essentially with Bhagavatam that all the children were very much affectionate and respectful to Prahlad Maharaj. And because of their tender age, they were not so polluted by the instructions and actions of their teachers, who were attached to condemned duality and bodily comfort. Thus the boys surrounded Prahlad Maharaj, giving up their playthings, and sat down to hear him, their hearts and eyes being fixed upon him. They looked at him with great earnestness. Prahlad Maharaj, although born in a demon family, was an exalted devotee, and he desired their welfare. Thus he began instructing them about the futility of materialistic life. So you can see with these children, this is why it's so important to start teaching children from the very beginning of their lives. This shloka says that because of the children's tender age, they were not so polluted by the instructions and actions of their teachers. So in this day and age, what is the main thing that we're worried about children being polluted from? So it's mainly things like social media, YouTube, television, these kind of things. And don't be under any illusion that these things are not polluting the same amount as the demon children would be getting in that actual school of Shukracharya's sons teaching them, who are essentially teaching them kind of demoniac principles. This is essentially what is 24 hours being broadcast on television, is on social media all over the place. So, from the very young age of children, it's very important to actually teach them Krishna consciousness. And Prahlāda himself, in the chapter previous to this, says a very famous shloka. And it goes, Komara charit pragyo dharman bhagavataniha durlabam manusya janama tadapi adruvam arthadam. It's a very, very famous shloka by Prahlāda Maharaj saying, one who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life. In other words, from the tender age of childhood, to practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved, and although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. So this is not something that just I'm reading from here. This is something I've actually lived. So I was born into the movement, and my parents, uh, wonderful devotees, and from my very childhood, I was engaged in Krishna consciousness. We actually bought the Coventry ISKCON temple in I think is it 80, 86 maybe, or 88, 1988, 86. I was only 5, 6 years old when we actually bought the temple. So I essentially grew up in the temple. And having grown up and having all the usual childhood tendencies, and then doing those things in the temple. So in the temple, we used to go there, and obviously being young children, myself and Sandeepani Muni, who were initiated at the time then, we used to go, and I remember when the class would be going on inside, we would be outside in the front court playing football, playing whatever games that children play. And I remember this carried on for a few years. And one day, my Guru Maharaj was giving class, and us kids were playing outside. And my Guru Maharaj sent my father out and said, "Go and tell those children, how much longer are you going to keep playing outside? When are you going to come in and actually engage in Krishna consciousness?" So I distinctly remember my father coming out and saying, "Guru Maharaj just said this." And the Guru Maharaj took us and sat us right at the front of the class, right at the front. So he would have us sitting directly in front of him and giving class. Now, this fundamentally shaped us because I remember my Guru Maharaj referring to me even when I was 16 years old. He goes, "You have become old man now. You're still going to carry on doing all of these childhood things?" I'm like, "Guru Maharaj, I'm 16 years old." And Guru Maharaj goes, "At 16 years old, people are going into battle for war." He goes, "You think 16-year-old is childhood?" He goes, "Abhimanyu, 16 years old, fought in Mahabharat." He goes, "16 years old is an adult." So this is how I was brought up. And what it does is that kind of upbringing in Krishna consciousness from such a young age, at that age, your mind is incredibly receptive for learning. At that point in time, I had like a photographic memory. So I could learn shlokas just like this. I was learning shlokas very, very easily and reading through Srimad Bhagavatam. And at that age, it's the perfect age when you're questioning the things that you're reading. When we get older and when we're in jobs and have families and houses to run, how many people have time to learn? And at that point in time, called a struggle for existence. But this is why it's so important in the young age, not only just to bring children to the temple, get them to actively sit in the class and listen. Ask them questions when they get home. So what did you learn today at the temple? Not just, "Oh, you had a great time, wonderful, now go to bed." And I think it's very important as well for youngsters, not just to do kirtan. I've been doing kirtan since I was a child. And myself and Sandeep Muni, even at a time when people didn't have the skills and talents to do kirtan in ISKCON in UK, we were doing kirtans at a very high standard even then. But still, my Guru Maharaj would make us always give classes. And this is why I always say, make sure the children don't just do kirtan, because all they're trying to do then is become the next pop star in ISKCON. Let's see how many social media hits I can get. Let's see how famous I can get. This name and fame agenda then starts to come in. But when they have to give classes, they understand there's a philosophical side to it. So this is what being Krishna consciousness in a young age will do. So Narada Muni actually says, I'll carry on. Although Prahlāda Maharaj was born in a family of asuras, he was the greatest of devotees. Having thus been questioned by his class friends, the son of the asuras, he remembered the words spoken to him by me. This is Narada Muni saying that. And Prahlāda Maharaj said, when Hiranyakashipu had gone to Mandrachal mountain to execute severe austerities, in his absence, the demigods headed by King Indra made a severe attempt to subdue all the demons in warfare. So there's always this thing between the demigods and the demons is always happening throughout history. And it's always because the forces of bad will always try and defeat the forces of good. And this is where the forces of good have to be sufficiently strong. It's not simply that the forces of good, okay, great, let me sit down and meditate. At the start of Mahabharat war, Arjun actually said this to Krishna. Seeing his relatives and family members, he thought, oh, I can't fight. I'm going to have to kill my relatives. I'm going to have to kill my friends. I'd rather go and meditate. And Krishna said this type of renunciation or meditation is simply a disturbance in society. It's important if it wasn't for people like the Pandavas, who are such incredible fighters, like Parikshit Maharaj, who directly challenged Kali. Lord Ramachandra himself, this is where it's important for devotees to make sure they're physically very fit and strong. Because trust me, the demons aren't sitting there nowadays, the demons are not sitting there in meditation. They're in gyms, they're in all these martial arts clubs, getting ready to beat people up and assert themselves physically. So this is actually our tradition or our culture to have such strength. So Prahlāda Maharaj carried on that as a serpent is eaten by small ants, so the troublesome Hiranyakashipu, who always inflicted miseries upon all types of people, has now been defeated by the reactions of his own sinful activities. This is what the demigods were thinking, because they didn't realize he'd gone for meditation. So Indradev actually went and he came in and started killing all of the demons and started plundering the actual palace of Hiranyakashipu. And the victorious demigods then saw Gayadu, who was the wife of Hiranyakashipu, and thought she's pregnant. If Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu were such incredible demons. And one thing you have to understand about Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, they weren't just your average demons. It's said when they were born, their physical size went so massive that they were like the hugest personalities anyone had ever seen. That's how Hiranyaksha was able to take the earth and actually put the earth is massive. Hiranyaksha had to be bigger than the earth in order to actually submerge it in the ocean. So the demigods thinking, God, if another Hiranyakashipu is born from this woman, we're going to be in trouble. So it is said that King of Heaven arrested Keadu and she was being led away crying in fear like a Gurari captured by a vulture. And the great sage Narad, who at that time had no engagement, appeared on the scene and saw her in this condition. Nardmuni said, O Indra, king of demigods, this woman is certainly sinless. You should not drag her off in this merciless way. O greatly fortunate one, this chaste woman is the wife of another. You must immediately release her. So you can see even in the demons society, they had chaste women. They had Brahmins and everything in there. So even these demons are actually better than the modern day demoniac people that we see. So King Indra said, in the womb of this woman, the wife of Hiranyakashipu, is the seed of that great demon. This is what Indra was saying. Therefore, let her remain in our custody until the child is delivered, and then we'll release her. Meaning they'll try and kill the child. And Nardmuni replied, the child within this woman's womb is faultless and sinless. Indeed, he is a great devotee, a powerful servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, you will not be able to kill him. Nardmuni told the King of Heaven, it would be impossible for you to kill the child, even though you're the demigods. And it will certainly be impossible for the others. We all saw how Prahlāda Maharaj, Hiranyakashipu tried every single way to try and kill him. And he just simply couldn't do it. And he was astonished, Hiranyakashipu, thinking, I went and did tapasya for thousands of years, such incredible austerity. This child has done nothing, yet he seems to be immortal. I can't kill him. So Narumi told Indra, you're not going to be able to kill this child. Just leave him, leave the mother and the child with me, and I will look after them in my ashram. So he said after that, Indra respected Nardmuni, gave Kayadu to them, and then they circumambulated Kayadu and actually left. And it said Nardmuni brought Kayadu to his ashram, and there he actually delivered instructions to Kayadu, knowing Prahlāda Maharaj was inside. So those of you that don't know, I've mentioned this a few times in other classes. Prahlāda Maharaj is so incredible in this Leela, and having read Srimad Bhagavatam before and having watched the Lord Nrsimhadev movie, I always thought Prahlāda Maharaj is actually the greatest of devotees. My rationale for saying that is once he was born, he had no devotee association. He had no one around him there that were devotees. He's surrounded completely by demons. He's born in the midst of demons, and they're all trying to kill him. And you might think, well, Vibhishan was the same. Vibhishan was a grown man. Prahlad Maharaj is 5 years old. He's a 5 year old, delicate, small boy in the midst of demons. His father is the biggest demon of them all. And yet, he never wavered in his faith ever. He had so much faith in the Lord. And even he now, you'll see, he's preaching to his friends. So Prahlad Maharaj's courage and faith is such exceptional level. It's you just have to admire. It said Yudhishthira Maharaj used to admire the character of Prahlad Maharaj so much. Because many times he thought Prahlad Maharaj is so incredible. And it's said that who was Prahlad Maharaj? So we all know the story that the four Kumaras went to the spiritual world to try and take the darshan of Lord Vaikuntha, and Jain Vijay stopped them. Then they cursed Jain Vijay, saying, "You'll be born in the material world." So when the Lord came and said, "Sorry, I apologize on their behalf. This was them. They are my servants, so it's like I have offended you." And they said, "No, no, no, Lord, you haven't offended us." And then the option was given 7 births as devotees or 3 births as demons. So realizing the demons are probably not going to live that long, and 3 births will go over like that, and they can come back to their service. They chose to do that and to actually go and have the 3 births as a demon. The four Kumaras then said, what is going to be this? There are going to be some wonderful pastimes happening, but we're not going to be part of it. What position can we have in there? So the Lord granted them that there will be 2 personalities, and you can actually go and be those. So one of them is Vibhishan and one of them is Prahlad Maharaj. So these are actually the incarnation of one of the four Kumaras. So this is why this Prahlad Maharaj is so incredible. So Narad Muni was giving instructions to Kayadu, and the child inside the womb was listening to that. And actually, I was Googling this, and this phenomenon of the mother receiving instructions and the child listening to it, this was actually clinically studied recently. And they did a study to see about when women were pregnant, what language they listened to and what the subject matter was. Would the child have more of an inclination towards that when it was born? And they found that the language that was used when the woman was pregnant, the child picked it up so much faster because he was used to listening to it. And the same with the subject matter that was heard, the child. So this is actually something true that happens. So Nardwani was giving the instructions. So this is very, very similar to Abhimanyu, who in the womb, Lord Krishna was explaining to Subhadra Maharani so many different things about the war and being a fighter and the different strategies. And when he was talking about the Chakravyu, he got to halfway through explaining how to break into this Chakravyu. And Subhadra Maharani fell asleep. So when she fell asleep, the child in the womb, when you couldn't hear the rest of uh, the discussion Lord Krishna was doing, so he didn't know how to break out of this Chakravyu. And it's not like it is now. They didn't have ChatGPT back then, I mean, when you couldn't have just Googled it or gone onto AI and asked him. So unless you heard it, you didn't know. So this phenomenon is there. So it looks like Kayadu Mata didn't fall asleep when he was giving instruction. So, but if you notice, Kayadu didn't become an incredible devotee like Prahlad Maharaj did. And Prahlad Maharaj actually comments on this. And he says, because of the long duration of time that has passed, and because of his mother being a woman, as Prabhupada writes, and therefore less intelligent, my mother has forgotten all those instructions. But the great sage Narad blessed me, and therefore I could not forget them. So at this point in time, I read this verse and I thought, oh, this is a bit of a hot button topic because very recently there's been a little bit criticism of Srila Prabhupada's writings by some people saying that Srila Prabhupada mentions many times that the women are less intelligent. Now, this is not Srila Prabhupada mentioning it, this is actually in the scriptures. And I looked into this. I thought, well, how can I, if someone asked the question, how can I go about explaining this? And there's a very nice article by Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu. He's very, very intelligent. And he says that when Srila Prabhupada's talking about the ladies being less intelligent, he doesn't mean in actual intelligence. He refers to philosophical inclination. Men are more likely to philosophize about something. And women are more likely to look at the emotionally intelligent side of things. And this is where, when Srila Prabhupada is talking about intelligence, he's referring to it as philosophical inclination. Because a large part of Krishna consciousness is reading or hearing the scriptures and philosophically understanding it and applying those things. So, and she said that Srila Prabhupada, you have to look at the context with which he says it. And Srila Prabhupada actually said that for the Western women, and you have to look at the time Srila Prabhupada grew up in. Srila Prabhupada grew up in the 20s, 1920s, not 2020s. And at that point in time, the ladies weren't sent off to like do very much higher education and that kind of stuff. Many of them just became housewives. So they weren't necessarily educated even in the same way. But Srila Prabhupada actually commented by saying the Western women were quite different from Indian women. And he often said that people brought up in the West, the women were often as good as their male counterparts. So when Srila Prabhupada is quoting from the scriptures saying that the Shastra is saying, it's because back in those days, women usually didn't even go into that level of education and stuff. And it's again, Saraswati Mata herself is a female. She's the Devi of intelligence. So Srila Prabhupada is not at all sexist towards women or anything like that. Women are more emotionally connected, whereas men can be sometimes very philosophical and not emotional. This is why actually I've seen many times that Srila Prabhupada has said that if a woman strictly practices devotional service, she can become even more devotional than the men. Even more so, because once they get emotionally attached to Lord Krishna, then that faith becomes extremely strong. And I've actually seen this. We went today to another source for someone. Someone had passed away, and I saw the majority of people in that of source were females, were Matajis. And then you all the prayers. And I looked around, where are all the men? There was 3 or 4 men sitting on the back on the sofas. And I thought, look, it's the Matajis that are keeping the Sanskriti going. So when women have increased faith, they achieve even more so than the men do. So I just thought I'd address that because it's something that does come up in different places in the scriptures. So there's a requirement of understanding. So Prahlāda Maharaj then goes on to say, of the different processes recommended for disentanglement from material life, the one personally explained and accepted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be considered all perfect. That process is the performance of duties by which love for the Supreme Lord develops. So I'll go into that a bit more details. This chapter is so massive, the amount of philosophy in there, you can't cover it in an hour-long lecture. So I've picked a couple of shlokas and looked to actually explain on those. So here it's saying, of the different processes recommended to disentangle one from material life, the one which is explained by the Supreme Lord is considered all perfect. So that process explained by the Supreme Lord is in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna, Srila Prabhupada puts in the purport, Lord Krishna's ultimate instruction, where he says, Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. That's the last instruction that he gives. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. And the Lord assures, Aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha shami masacha. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. So we've heard this. How many times have people heard this? Surrender, surrender. Well, what does that even mean? My father once, he was traveling in, I think it was Vrindavan, and someone who wasn't part of ISKCON actually asked him this question. He already knew the answer, but he asked my father the question. He goes, well, Krishna says Sarvadharma Pradesha, so what does that mean then? And my father gave some explanation on it, and the person said, no, but what is Sharanagati? And my father had not heard of that before. And he says, Sharanagati, he goes, what does that mean, Sharanagati? He goes, the process of surrender. So my father said, well, what I've just mentioned. And the person said, no, that's not the. Then he started to try and remember the sequence of what I'm about to share with you. And he forgot it halfway through. And my father said, oh, so you just memorized something then? You haven't actually lived it. And it was a nice way of my father in that instance to try and like kind of win the argument to show, look, in ISKCON, we're practicing this surrender. But once my father looked into it more, he realized that this Sharanagati actually is very, very important. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 22, 100, there's a shloka which comes up. And this is what Sharanagati means. And Sharanagati is the process of surrender. So it's the verse is Anukulasya Sankalpa Pratikulasya Varjanam Rakshishyatiti Vishvaso Goptritve Varanam Tatha Atma Nikshepa Karpanye Sadvida Sharanagati. So I'll read the translation to this. The six divisions of surrender are the acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service. So that's the first thing, acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service, the rejection of unfavorable things. Three, the conviction that Krishna will give protection. Four, the acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master. Five, full surrender. And six, humility. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, one who is fully surrendered is qualified with the six following characteristics. So this Sharanagati, you could do a whole lecture on this by itself, but I thought it's important to bring it up. Srila Prabhupada, if you look in the purport to that shloka in Bhagavad Gita, he actually does mention these. Now this is very, very important for those that are thinking, I want to surrender unto the Lord, because that's how we get free of the reactions of our sins. Srila Prabhupada says many, many times that how to get back to Godhead, he says, Ye Shamtva Antagatam Papam Jananam Punya Karmana, that you have to have destroyed all the reactions of your previous sinful activities and only then done good activities. Srila Prabhupada says if you actually listen to his lectures many, many times, Srila Prabhupada said that is the actual qualification for going back to Godhead. So getting rid of one's sinful activities is extremely important. And the way that happens is by surrendering unto the Lord. So following these six things is really important. So the first one, the devotee has to accept everything that is favorable for the rendering of transcendental loving service to the Lord. So that's the first thing. So what I'm actually going to do is there's a wonderful book which was actually written by Sri Bhakti Rasik Sridhar Dev Goswami. Now, those of you who don't know, Sridhar Goswami was one of Srila Prabhupada's senior godbrothers. And Srila Prabhupada was extremely close to Sridhar Goswami. In fact, Sridhar Goswami lived in Srila Prabhupada's house for many years. And they used to talk for 7, 8 hours every day about Krishna consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada many times took advice from Sridhar Goswami and considered him his Shiksha Guru. That's how important Sridhar Goswami was to Srila Prabhupada. And it actually said that Srila Prabhupada invited Sridhar Goswami even when ISKCON was formed, and he took a lot of guidance from him, and he told some of his Srila Prabhupada told some of his disciples, actually even, that if they needed advice or guidance, go to Sridhar Swami. So Srila Swami actually wrote a book on Sharanagati, and it's called Sri Sri Prapanna Jivanamrita. And that book was actually printed in the 1930s or 40s. And guess who actually funded the printing of that book? Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada actually funded the printing of that book. That time, Srila Prabhupada was actually a householder and was earning, so he actually funded the printing. So this Sharanagati is actually explained in that book. So it said that Anukulasya Sankalpa, accepting anything that is helpful for obtaining Krishna. So the shloka from that book, it says, resolute conviction to execute everything favorable to the service of Krishna, to his devotees, and to surrender is called anukulasya sankalpa, acceptance of the favorable. So this means that all activities favorable to the service of Krishna, so this, whether you're chanting, whether it's whatever services you're doing, you have to do something. This is what it is. Shri Prabhupada said, love means do. If you say, I love you to someone, then don't do anything for them, they'll say, well, what kind of value is your love? You're not doing anything. There's one of the famous classical people said, love means do. So this first thing, accepting anything that's helpful. So pratikulasya vivarjanam, rejecting anything that's an obstacle to obtaining Krishna. So this is explained more in this book by saying resolute conviction to abandon everything that's opposed to the service of the Lord, to his devotees, and to surrender. That is called pratikula vivarjanam, rejection of the unfavorable. So that is rejecting all activities which are not devotional service. And remember, this is if you're thinking, I want to fully surrender unto the Lord. So this is something we will all should be all be working towards. And remember, when I give this class, I'm not saying I'm doing all of these things. This is I'm sharing with you from Srimad Bhagavatam. We're all trying to live up to the standard, and I really feel that you actually learn as life goes on. As life goes on, and I'll explain a bit more how that is later, you eventually come to the realization of what you are reading. I mean, I read this like 20 years ago, but mentally I wasn't ready to do this then as much as I am now. So as we go through life and we go through Krishna consciousness, we learn, and that's an ascending sort of slope. It's never black or white either. You're doing it or you're not doing it. It's an ascending slope. So you have to realize, go through and think, I have to work through that. It's not that it happens sometimes where if people like are dieting, let's say they diet great for a few days, and then that one day they accidentally have too much of that pizza, and they go over their calorie limit, and they think, oh, forget it, I've done it now. I might as well just eat everything. Quick, open the fridge. What else is there? Let me just eat. It's not like that. So when we're doing devotional service, you have to understand that as time goes by, you will learn more and more that, okay, let me keep chipping away to achieve the standard. Shouldn't just think, well, that standard is unattainable, so forget it. I'm never going to bother to do that. So, this rejecting any action which is opposed to devotional service to the Lord is very important. I think devotees usually are very good at accepting services because they get much encouragement. Oh, Prabhu, please give this service. Oh, Prabhu, you should come to Mangalarti. Oh, Prabhu, you should read regularly. Everyone's very, very good at doing that. What devotees are not very good at doing is saying, Prabhu, maybe you should stop going to eat out at restaurants. Prabhu, maybe you should watch a little bit less TV. Prabhu, maybe you should get off social media. Maybe you should. These are the kind of things which actually infiltrate our consciousness. So this is something as time goes on, you'll naturally lose the flavor for it. And if you don't lose, I'll explain later, Krishna makes you lose the flavor. If you don't do it, Krishna's going to be like, right, you're not doing it naturally, right? I'm going to help you a little bit. So the next one, Rakshishyatiti Vishvasa, faith that Krishna will assuredly grant his protection. In the case of Prahlāda Maharaj, He had incredible faith that Krishna will protect him. Can we say that Prahlad Maharaj, I would say in the history of devotees, has probably the most faith that Krishna will protect him? It's not. You might say, well, Vibhishan was living with the demons. How many times did Ravan try to kill Vibhishan? None. He never tried to kill, other than when he was in the battle and he'd already switched side to Lord Ram's. Then he released a Yam Bash to kill Vibhishan. Before that, he'd never tried. Prahlad Maharaj routinely was trying to get killed by Hiranyakashipu. And he's 5 years old. Yet he had absolute faith that Krishna will grant protection. Now, I'll cover more about this in a minute because it's an important thing, and sometimes real life can make you question things. So we'll go through that a little bit in a bit. So the explanation here given by this sorry, Bhakti Sridhar Dev Goswami. So he gave the explanation, certainly Krishna will protect me because he is the true friend of the devotees. He will definitely bless me with all good fortune. So see, not only will he protect me, he will definitely bless me with all good fortune. Herein such faith is sustained. So Prahlad Maharaj always thought like this. And if you look, that way of thinking is a positive way of thinking. In this world, including myself, because so many negative things keep happening, we can have faith that Krishna will protect us. But then we always think on that side, well, it's only a matter of time before the next terrible thing happens. So especially, I would say, since the pandemic happened, there was I don't know if any of the devotees have noticed it, but for me, I definitely noticed. Before 2019, 2020, speaking as a devotee, devotees were used to walk around thinking, I'm bulletproof. Literally, we used to walk around thinking, we're devotees of the Lord, I'm bulletproof. I can cross the road without looking, nothing's going to happen to me, Krishna will protect me. And that sort of point in time, for however long I've been alive at least, that 30 odd years up until that point, 35, whatever, however old I was, it felt like golden age for devotees. The Lord was always protecting, everything was always going right, and devotees felt bulletproof. As soon as the pandemic hit and one negative thing was happening after another, and even devotees were affected. Devotees were dying in the pandemic. We had Maharajas, Bhakti Churu Maharaj passed away, Pankajangri Prabhu did. Devotees' faith was shaken, thinking, God, negative stuff is happening. And since then, the way that the world has been going, the way the negative things keep on happening, there is a tendency even for devotees, including myself, to think, well, I know the Lord will protect me, but negative stuff will just keep happening. But if you see here, Maharaj is saying, certainly Krishna will protect me because he's the true friend of the devotees. And he will definitely bless me with all good fortune. We have to understand that good fortune, especially in Kali Yuga, is not going to come from the result of our previous good activities. For goodness sake, we're born in Kali Yuga. We're already in a prison and we're in the worst age. There's not hardly any good activities that we will have done. The good fortune is coming because of Krishna's mercy. So we have to really have faith that the Lord will help. So the next one, Goptritve Varanam, embracing the Lord's guardianship. And this is, if I read the shloka, it says, O Krishna, please protect me. O Lord, kindly accept me as your own. This is very, very important. This is how we should pray. O Krishna, please protect me. O Lord, kindly accept me as your own. And Maharaj says, this prayer to obtain Sri Krishna as one's master is the supreme source of satisfaction for the hearts of the pure devotees, and is known by them as Goptritve Varanam, embracing the Lord's guardianship, because it expresses one and the same ideal as Sharanagati. So this Gopatritve Varanam is accepted as the basis of surrender. and the other five elements are considered its limbs. So, seeing that I belong to the Lord, accept me as your own. Once you start to understand that the Lord is, you are belong to the Lord, then all it's very easy then to accept all of the things favorable to Krishna consciousness, to reject all of the things unfavorable, to believe the Lord will protect. As soon as you think you belong to the Lord, this is the difference. When you belong to someone, just like when in a relationship, you belong to that person, naturally all the other things come. But when we see the Lord as our order supplier, Lord, I'll come to the temple, I will put in one penny, and you give me 1 million. My Guru Maharaj I always laugh whenever I hear Om Jai Jagadishwari. My Guru Maharaj always used to laugh at one point. He would say people will go into the temple and take the copper coins. At those times, there used to be a lot of coins being used. It was like 10, 15 years ago. So people still used to use a lot of cash. So people have coins in their pockets. Prabhupada goes, my Guru Maharaj used to say, they won't take the silver coins, they'll take the copper coins and say, Tera tujhko arpan. Give and keep the rest in their pocket. Kya lage mein? Give me everything now. Grandma said they give 1 penny and they expect the Lord to give £1 million to them. So this kind of order supplier where we do some sort of devotion for the Lord in exchange for something, that's not accepting Krishna as your own or accepting that you belong to Krishna. Imagine if a mother, when she's cooking for the child, cooks a nice roti sabji, brings it in a plate, takes it in front of the child, feeds the child very nicely, and then say, "Okay, give me £5." What's the child going to say? Uh, you're my mother. What are you doing? I'm not going to give you £5. This is love. So can you imagine how Krishna feels? Even though we might do the nicest service for him, in the end, Krishna, now I've done this for you. Please give me a nice car. Please give me a nice wife. Please give me a nice house. Give me a nice job. This is how, think about how Krishna must feel if we would feel like that. Yet we if we see Krishna as the order supplier, Krishna doesn't actually get one thing. Srila Prabhupada said Krishna doesn't even accept that service. This is how I'll read a conversation later by Srila Prabhupada. It's incredible actually how the length Srila Prabhupada goes to say that that's not really devotional service. So the next one, Atma Nikshepa, self-dedication. And the verse says Atmanivedanam is known as the condition of having offered oneself to Krishna solely to satisfy him while being devoid of possessiveness and false egotism. Atmanivedanam, to just surrender yourself to the Lord and not think that things belong to you. There's a nice class I heard today, Srila Prabhupada said, is when we realize that Krishna is actually the proprietor of everything. He is the owner of everything. Then we stop thinking, well, the world is our oyster to enjoy. So this is where once we think that, oh, this nothing belongs to anyone. Ah, this is for me to enjoy now. Then we think, well, what can I get from the world? How can I enjoy it? And this is where we actually fall down. So, karpanya, experience of one's own lamentable condition. So the Maharaj explains, O Lord, please protect me, protect me. Praying thus in a mood of distress while remembering in all respects the greatness of the mercy of the Supreme Lord and an unparalleled ocean of compassion, and remembering in particular one's own extreme lamentable lowliness. This distressed condition of the devotee is described as karpanya. So you look at this is very, very important. Let's say you do all the other actions in Krishna consciousness, and the devotees are very good sometimes at doing this. They'll give up all the things they shouldn't do, they'd accept all the things they should, they see the Lord as a protector, they surrender themselves completely, but they're lacking humility. So they think, now I am great. I have become better than everyone around me. Prabhu, you didn't come to Mangalarti the other day. What are you doing there? This kind of thing comes up, and that's the last item of surrender. As soon as there's pride there, there isn't surrender. So it says here, Maharaj is actually saying, praying, oh Lord, please protect me while remembering the greatness of the mercy of the Supreme Lord and remembering one's own lamentable lowliness. It's not that Prahlāda Maharaj went to Hiranyakashipu and said, "You've done tapasya for thousands of years, so you think you're immortal. I'm a devotee of the Lord, so I'm also immortal." Prahlāda Maharaj didn't do that. He was just every time just fold his hands, say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Narayana. He was praying to the Lord all the time, saying, "I'm lowly, I'm nothing." And there's a wonderful scene in that movie where I'm sure everyone saw it, started crying, where Prahlāda Maharaj is saying, "I want to take darshan of you. Lord, I'm so low. Why would you come and see me? I'm nothing. I'm just a child of the demons. Why would you ever come to see me? But I want to see you." And then Lord Vishnu appears. So this, if you see, Prahlāda Maharaj is showing all of these things. And it said, there's a wonderful shaloka from Ramayana when Vibhishan, the brother of Ravan, prays to Lord Ram for shelter. Lord Ram proclaims before Hanuman and all the devotees, anyone who even once sincerely surrenders unto me and declares, "I am yours," and prays for fearlessness, it is my vow that I will always supply that to them. So this is very important. You have to surrender and say, "Krishna, I am yours." This is the Sharanagati. So I went into that little bit detail because it's very, very important. These 6 items of surrender. Next time that you think, "I need to actually surrender into the Lord," this is how it's done. So I know there's not much time left, so I'll just try to get to a little other question that people might have. So, oh, quickly, just one. How long do I have left? Can I ask?
Probably, I'm sure devotees will be okay for you to carry on as long as you want.
Okay. All right. So great. So I'll just give a few of the other shalokas that Prahlad Maharaj actually said. So Prahlad Maharaj said, a materialistic person thinking himself very advanced in intelligence continually acts for economic development. But again and again, as enunciated in the Vedas, he's frustrated by material activities, either in this life or the next. Indeed, the results one obtains are inevitably the opposite of what one desires. We must we must have experienced this in life that many times the things that we are trying to go towards and achieve, most often than not, we achieve the opposite of it. We don't achieve those things and we end up getting the opposite. If someone's trying to be rich, he finds himself poor. If someone's trying to, even let's say someone tries to achieve something to make them happy, when they achieve that thing, they find happiness is not there. So just like, for example, you get a nice car. You think, "Oh, I'd love to get the car." And before you buy it, you're building up in your head so much, "When I get the car, I'll do this, I'll do that. I was happy, blah, blah, blah." The minute you get the car, it's great. Wow, everyone's doing Vava. Within a week, the Vava's gone. It's something to get you to A to B. You're thinking, "Man, all that build up is for nothing." Now, this is the same for all things in the material world. And the biggest foolish thing that we all do, and social media perpetrates this a lot, we think, well, all these successful looking people, they seem to have these things and they look happy. But maybe if I get those things, I'll be happy because these people look happy and they have these things. What you don't know is that social media is literally one snapshot in the life of a person. And more often than not, they're faking the happiness while they're doing it. I know many people who they're couples and they'll post on social media, "Oh, we're loved up, we're having such a great time, this and that." And I know for a fact these people have got problems in their marriage. So I'm like, why are you posting these things trying to show everybody that you're happy? So for the bichari who are not married, that will be seen at thinking, "Oh, I wish I was married. I wish I could be happy like them." And thinking, no, it's not like that. Sadhu said very nicely, marriage is like a fort. 50% are trying to get in, 50% are trying to get out. So everyone thinks that these material things that we're going for is actually going to make them happy. But the truth is, more often than not, you will not get that happiness from it, even if you do get it. And 9 times out of 10, you simply won't get the thing. Sri Prabhupada writes in the purport very nicely, no one has ever achieved the result he desired from material activities. It's very, Sri Prabhupada writes this very, very particularly. What is the result we desire from material activities? The result is happiness, isn't it? Permanent, sustained happiness. Not fleeting, not very, very minute. On the contrary, Srila Prabhupada says, everyone has been frustrated again and again. If we actually have a look at our lives, what is the thing which frustrates us the most? Is it the lack of our spiritual activities and progress? Or is it the lack of the things that we want materially? So let's be honest. No one thinks, ooh, I wish I could do 24, 64 rounds. Okay, well, do it then. No one thinks like that. Everyone thinks, ooh, I wish I had a better car. Oh, I wish I could move to a nicer neighborhood. The things which often frustrate us in life, even something as seemingly basic but so very important is, I wish I had better health. I wish the health of the people around me was better. These are the things, it's material desires which are giving us misery. The spiritual desires, Krishna's very clever actually. Spiritual desires he fulfills like that. It's incredible how quickly Krishna will fulfill your spiritual desires. Material desires is another thing, and I'm going to come to that. It's very, very important. So, Srila Prabhupada says, on the contrary, everyone is frustrated again and again. Therefore, one must not waste his time in such material activities for sensual pleasure. Again, I'm not saying that I am doing this. I'm saying this is a benchmark from Srimad Bhagavatam that we all need to be working towards. Even Srila Prabhupada said, sense gratification in life is like salt. If you don't have enough salt in the meal, doesn't matter how nice the vegetables or how nice you cooked it, it won't taste nice. But if you put too much salt, what happens? Everyone complains, and blood pressure. So this is where sense gratification is just like salt. You just sprinkle a little bit here and there. So we should all, and including myself, endeavor to work towards this. And Krishna actually helps. I'll come to that. When the Lord helps, it's painful. But we'll cover that. So, Prabhupada writes, so many nationalists, economists, and other ambitious persons have tried for happiness, individually or collectively, but history proves they have all been frustrated. So can we look, even nowadays, there's so much, everyone's trying for peace, trying for peace. How many wars are going on? Continuously. One war finishes, the next one starts. So this Srila Prabhupada says, there is no way in this world. So Srila Prabhupada writes in the next shloka, Prahlāda Maharaj says, in this material world, every materialist desires to achieve happiness and diminish his distress, and therefore acts accordingly. Actually, however, one is happy as long as one does not endeavor for happiness. This seems counterproductive, but I'll explain. As soon as one begins his activities for happiness, his conditions of distress begin. So what Prahlāda is saying, as soon as you try to become happy, you become miserable. Let me explain how. So let's say I wake up tomorrow and think I want to get a a new car, for example. I just got a new car last year, so I don't really want another car. But let's say, for example, tomorrow I think, oh, I want to get another car. Immediately, then what happens? I think, ooh, well, I better get a nice car then. So hold on, but that's going to cost me money. So now I have to try and save up that money, and oh, that means I'm going to have to work harder at work. I'm going to have to try and put more money savings away. Oh God, I've got to do all of this difficult stuff just to get the happiness. So the minute I desired something, the distress immediately presented itself in front of me. And like I said, once you even achieve that thing, the happiness is 1 week. 1 week. So as soon as we endeavor for happiness, you get distress. What happens when we endeavor for Krishna's happiness, however? I say this to people who I see washing dishes at the temple. I ask them, would you wash these dishes at home? And they're like, are you kidding me? Of course not. I never wash dishes for 4 hours at home. I go, so why are you doing it here? He goes, well, you get some happiness here serving the Lord and doing it. When we work hard for Krishna, that's not distress. There's happiness while you're doing it. And those of you that have given really nice service in the temple, you know this. When you start washing the dishes for the Lord or cooking for the Lord, you naturally become happy. That same happiness you do not get cleaning your dishes at home or cooking even at home. If you cook for Krishna, that's fine. You cook for your family as well. But in the temple, you're just cooking for Krishna and the devotees. You're not even thinking about yourself. So this is very, very important. Srila Prabhupada said one is happy as long as one does not endeavor for happiness. Why do you think the sadhus would go to the forest? Why do you think they would sit and meditate? Why are they not thinking, let me build a nice hut for myself, then let me get a nice bedstead, and then I need a little place to cook? No, they don't waste time with all of that. They go there, they meditate, they go around, beg alms, and they're actually purifying the houses they go to, then they carry on doing their spiritual work. Not saying that we should all do this, but there's no need for us to have so many material big desires. Because the minute you desire, then distress comes. So we should desire, this is where one of the process of surrender is accept things favorable to Krishna. We shouldn't try and build a big house for ourselves. Why not try and build a big temple for the Lord? Right now, ISKCON Coventry Temple is actually trying to expand. We're trying to extend the actual temple room, build a multi-story cafe on the side. So we're taking great pains actually to build this temple. It's a monumental task that we've got. We need everyone's help in donating, but we're willing to take this on because it's for Krishna. It will give us much distress to do, supposedly, but that distress is pleasurable for us because we're doing it for the Lord. So this is what devotees need to start doing. So here's the nice, interesting part, or even more interesting part. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, Sukadev Goswami was speaking, and Maharaj Parikshit asked a question. He said, why is it that the devotees of Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu, actually struggle so much? Why did Prahlāda Maharaj and the Pandavas struggle so much? So, Parikshit Maharaj knew that his grandfathers, by five Pandavas, were incredible pure devotees of the Lord. And Lord Krishna was actually their friend. And yet he knows the struggles that they went through. So I'll read a bit of Srila Prabhupada conversation. So it said, Parikshit Maharaj, because he understood that his grandfathers were put to so many difficulties, although the Supreme Lord Krishna was their friend, their personal friend. So everyone became astonished. How is it that these five brothers, Maharaj Yudhishthir, the most pious man, Arjun, the greatest warrior in Bharat, Draupadi, their wife, directly the goddess of fortune, Srila Prabhupada writing this, and above all, Krishna, their personal friend, and Bhimsen, the strongest man on earth. How is it that these personalities were put into so many troubles? For 13 years, they had to go so many troubles. And he said, even Bhishma Dev, he cried, saying, I cannot understand why these five brothers are put into so many difficulties despite all these qualities. So Parikshit Maharaj, when he was being taught by Sukadeva Goswami, Srila Prabhupada writes, he had some suspicions about devotion to Krishna. And Prabhupada said, not suspicion, just to teach us, he inquired that Lord Krishna, he is Vishnu, meaning to say he's the master of the goddess of fortune. Why do people who become Krishna conscious or a devotee of Lord Vishnu remain poorer, and those that worship Lord Shiva and the demigods become very rich? What's the reason? He, the Lord, is the proprietor of everything. So one who wants him, they become poorer. Where the Lord Shiva, he hasn't even got his own house. The Srila Prabhupada writes, he is a pauper, and one who worships him becomes richer. Srila Prabhupada says, this is a conversation, remember. You know the history of Lord Shiva. He hasn't even got a house. He lives under the tree or in some mountain. But one who worships Lord Shiva, oh, they get material opulence very nicely. Therefore, persons have become very easily, and that bit's omitted because I don't know what Prabhupada said. So this captivates a person to become a devotee of Lord Shiva. And Prabhupada writes, our Ginsburg, who was a devotee at that time, he is a devotee of Lord Shiva. Perhaps you know. Anyone who wants material prosperity, naturally they become the devotee of Lord Shiva. So this is contradictory. Lord Shiva has no house even, not a dwelling place. He's a resident. His residence, he's a pauper. So Sukadev Goswami was the answer Prabhupada said was given by Sukadev Goswami. This very question was also put to Krishna by your grandfather. He said this to Parikshit Maharaj. He goes, Yudhishthira Maharaj asked Krishna this. So this is the Pandava directly asking. So Krishna answered like this. Krishna said, if I do somebody some special favor, then my first duty is that I make him become crushed in all material possessions. The Lord takes away all his material possessions. And Sri Prabhupada says, you see why? And Krishna says, because to make him more surrendered to me. When he becomes helpless, he has no other way. He says, Krishna, please take me. Please protect me. When he has something, he thinks, oh, these things will protect me, my material possessions. Therefore, he does not surrender. So this Draupadi is the same way. When Draupadi was being disrobed, she looked at Bhisham Pitama, she looked at her husbands, she looked at Dronacharya, Vidur, others. Then eventually she just started grabbing the sari herself and holding with her teeth, and she couldn't do anything at the end. She thought, and then she called Govinda and was still holding on to the sari. And once she realized none of this is going to work, she just threw her hands up and says, Krishna, save me. And when as soon as she surrendered, Krishna supplied so much cloth. And he said at that point in time, Krishna was playing dice with Rukmani in Dwaraka. And as he was playing, Rukmani was looking at Krishna, and Krishna was looking parishan. He was looking very worried. And Rukmani said, why are you looking worried? And he goes, Draupadi's in some big difficulty. And he said, well, why don't you? She said, why don't you help her then? And he goes, I'm waiting. She hasn't called me yet. He goes, I'm only going to help when she goes. She hasn't called. I'm waiting, waiting. And as soon as she said, Krishna, save me, Krishna came. Excuse me. So, so I'll carry on reading.
Did you
So
want a
when
sip of
he
water,
thinks,
Prabhu?
yeah, uh, when he becomes helpless and has no other way, he says, Krishna, please take me. When he has something, he thinks, now these things will protect me, my material possessions. Therefore, he does not surrender. When Krishna sees this man, this living entity, is very much a devotee, but he wants something, this nonsense. So I crush him so that he'll feel helpless and he'll come to me. No, so no more he'll go to other things. Then I give him protection. Krishna says he has a policy. Sometimes he puts us into a test to see whether we are sincerely a devotee of Krishna, because we are always after some sense gratification. So this is the thing Srila Prabhupada actually says. So I'll read this, is very important. Srila Prabhupada says, if Krishna sees, here is a person, he wants me, but he is foolish. He wants me, and at the same time, he wants to enjoy this material world. So crush this, crush this material propensity and let him become simply devoted. So this is what I was saying. When we pray to the Lord and still we want to actually enjoy the world, we have to look at this inside. How much do you want? And you might think, well, I don't want to enjoy the world. I'm following all the four principles and all that. Okay, but do you want to enjoy eating nice things? I do. I know I do. Do we want to enjoy nice holidays or watching movies or going out and doing nice things? It's not that we shouldn't want to do these things. But if that's all that the material goals that are there, the 24 hours a day, out of the 24 hours, 22 and a half hours a day, that's what we want to do. And Krishna, I'll give you an hour and a half when I chant my 16 rounds. If that's the kind of mentality that we want Krishna, but also we're thinking the world should be very nice and I should enjoy myself. This is where we are being a fool. And Prabhupada even says in there, Krishna rejects this. So hold on. So this Prabhupada says, because we are always after sense gratification, so if Krishna is not an order supplier, then one rejects Krishna. Meaning, if we come to Krishna and pray for something, Krishna doesn't do it, then reject Krishna, you're not the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada writes, when we want God or Krishna to be our order supplier, that means we have to order Krishna. Krishna, give me this. Krishna, give me that. And if you don't give me it, then what are you, Krishna? I don't want you. This sort of bhakti or devotional service is not accepted by Krishna. It's not accepted. So this is where we have to realize, well, if we make Krishna our order supplier, Krishna, I'll do this for you, you do this for me, then you're treating Krishna like a businessman. So Krishna, that's not pleasurable for him. And we have to remember, when you treat Krishna like you belong to him, Krishna is ready to do everything for you. And this is when Sudama's pastime, if you look at Sudama's pastime, is a classic example of this. Krishna's best friend, and he's living like the most daridar, poor person. To go and see Krishna, he didn't even have rice in his house. And his wife, Dhanapatni, is so clever, she went and collected rice from five, six different houses. So when Krishna sees it, he'll see this is not puffed rice from one house. This has come from five or six. He must be in financial difficulty. Because Sudama, Krishna's friend, he's never going to tell, he never used to pray to Krishna for anything, ever. So he'll tell Krishna, Krishna will say, how are you doing? Like, when you meet your friends, if you meet your friend after a long time, many, many years, and you see the friend and you're like, hey, hey, how you doing? And the friend goes, I'm doing this business. How are you doing? You say, well, I'm doing well as well. I'm doing great. Even though you may not be doing great, you will say that. And because Sudama was Krishna's friend like that, he's Dhanapatini knows when Sudama goes to see Krishna, who's now the king of Dwaraka, Krishna will say, so how are you doing, Sudama? Sudama will look up and say, I'm doing great, Lord Krishna. So he won't give Sudama anything. So his Draupadi was so clever that she did this. She actually gave these different rices from different houses. So Krishna will see, hold on, I think Sudama is suffering. So it said when Krishna gave Sudama nice clothes to wear, everything, and then when he was going to leave, Krishna even took the clothes back from him. And as he's leaving, Sudama thought, I've come to see my friend here. I didn't ask him for anything, but I got the most wonderful thing. I got to associate with my Lord and I got to love him face to face. What else do I need? And it said at that point in time, when Sudama understood this, that he doesn't need anything else, just Krishna, Krishna gave him everything. Even before he got back to his kingdom, his whole hut had gone, the massive palace there, all that kind of stuff. But still, when Sudama got back, did he try and do sense gratification in that palace? You will not find it written anywhere. He just said, I hope my tree is still there. I want to go and meditate on my Lord. So when the Lord, you become surrendered unto the Lord, Lord Krishna does give everything. And using the Pandavas example, we can categorically see this. They suffered for that period of time. Yes, they did. You can't say they didn't. They definitely did. But who won the Mahabharat war? The Pandavas. And they had, after that war, at least about 30, 35 years where Krishna personally lived with them in Hastinapur for about 30, 35 years. So they did get ultimately the end, victory, happiness, and Lord Krishna personally living with them. So we this material world is never going to be something nice for us because that's just the way it is. And I'll finish on one little point I was thinking on. I was thinking, why is it that when personalities like Srila Prabhupada, like Bhaktisiddhanta Ji and Bhaktisiddhanta Ji's disciples, when these personalities come from the spiritual world, why is it that they don't seem very enamored by material life? Why is it that they somehow seem almost immune to it? It doesn't attract them in the same way it attracts people like us who are Nitya Buddhas, always born. And I had a realization of why this is. So let's say tomorrow, hopefully this doesn't happen, if we wake up suddenly in prison, we have no recollection of our life before prison. We have no idea anything what's outside the prison at all. We can't remember it. Okay? We see in the prison, oh, I'm in this horrible cell. That little cell over there, that looks a little bit better. That bed looks a little bit more comfortable. He got a nicer walls and a nicer looking wash area there. I think that cell's better than this. I should try and maneuver my way to get into that cell. And you go to the what do you call it, canteen to eat, and they're giving you whatever rubbish they give in the prison cell, but you don't know any better. So you think, ooh, this thing, oh, that's tasty. Well, that thing looks a bit more tasty. Maybe tomorrow I'll try and eat that thing, not knowing it's prison food. It's not going to be high quality food at all. The people around you that you'll see, other prisoners, other people that are sometimes mean to you, doing harm to you, making your life difficult, and you think, this prison's all right, but these people are giving me trouble. I'm gonna try and hang out with those guys. Maybe they'll give me protection. Maybe they'll give me something. And oh, there's a games field here where these people are playing with a ball. That looks fun. Maybe I'll do that. That'll make me happy. Have you seen the analogy that I've given? The person that doesn't know anything else outside of the prison will only seek happiness within the prison because he thinks that is happiness. For those of us that know what it's like outside a prison, is any prison cell in there comfortable? No. Is any of the food that they're giving there palatable? No, probably not at all. Are any of the people in that prison going to be someone that you want to spend any time with? No, not at all. Is any of the fun or games that they look like they're having in there something that you would aspire to do? Not really. So, in the material world, because we don't know the spiritual world or we don't remember it, we don't know the happiness there, we are looking for the happiness here, thinking, well, everyone else seems to be doing this and being happy. Well, maybe I'll do that to become happy. Maybe I'll eat that. Maybe I'll try achieving that and becoming happy. But what happens when you achieve that thing? Well, it wasn't that good. But that's all you know. And there's a very nice quote by Jim Carrey. He's a big actor and he achieved massive global success. He was multi-millionaire. He got married to some supermodel. He had cars, house, everything. And he said in an interview recently, I hope everybody achieves all of the things that they think will make them happy, so that when they do achieve it, they realize none of this makes you happy. That's from coming from someone who did achieve it all. So why do you think someone like the Beatles went into Krishna consciousness? The Beatles are more famous and popular than any band in history. They had everything you could possibly want, yet they came to Krishna consciousness. Why? Because Krishna consciousness made them happier than achieving all those things. If we can't take a lesson from that and realize as soon as we came into Krishna consciousness, it was a contract between us and Krishna that Krishna, I'm going to become yours. And part of that is Krishna making our material lives a little bit miserable so that we actually surrender more to him. Well, how about this? We'll surrender more to him in advance so that Krishna doesn't have to step in. That's the thing. Srila Prabhupada said once very nicely. My Guru Maharaj used to say it as well. He goes, learn the lesson. Learn the lesson because if Krishna has to teach it to you, it's painful. Learn the lesson in advance and do that. Because if Krishna has to show you, he's not going to do it nicely. He's going to do it a way where there is pain. So I'll end my class there. Apologies if anything I said was offensive to anyone. Like I said, I'm also trying to live up to the standard of everything that I said today. It's not something that I'm saying that I'm doing. It's something that I've simply read, realized some of a little small amount of it, and just passing on. So, Haribol.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. That was just an amazing class, and thank you very much for taking that time out as well. If anyone are you okay to take
Yeah,
questions?
sure.
If anyone has any questions, please raise your hand. I had a question from the outset. Okay, Shakti
Yeah.
Prabhu, go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Oh, sorry, you can go ahead if you were
No,
about
no,
to get into
no.
yours.
That's fine. I usually just I'm
I
okay.
mean, he's my brother-in-law. I can ask him anytime, to be honest.
Go ahead, Shakti Prabhu.
Okay, so thank you so much, Prabhuji. Whilst you were talking, I was actually thinking, you answered my question. I was thinking, oh, we all know that Jay and Vijay were, the previous incarnations of Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksh. And then I was starting to think, oh, then what about Prahlāda Maharaj? Like, what was his previous life? Because I was under the perception that he became pure in the womb. And the examples that you shared with, sorry, I think it's somehow muted. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
The examples that you shared with us was along those lines as well about Abhimanyu and the Chakravyuh, acquiring knowledge and that informing you within the womb. So with Prahlāda Maharaj coming as one of the four Kumaras, did he then wrap up that pastime and then just go straight back to Golok, or did he, like, what happened after this avatar, or is there any sort of description of that?
I haven't heard a description of what happened afterwards, but I know that Prahlāda Maharaj, as soon as he was in the womb, he was already perfected. That's why Narad Muni said to Indra, he hadn't even taught Prahlāda Maharaj anything yet. He said to Indra, you will not be able to kill this child, even right now. Even if they tried to kill Kayadu, impossible. The Lord was already protecting him. He's already perfected in the womb. It's just Narad Muni gave him those teachings.
So he was like, he came as in Nitya Siddha, like he didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
The four Kumaras are already, they're perfect.
Yeah.
That's how they ended up in Vaikuntha.
Okay.
But from what he learned, because remember, any perfected being, when they even come into the material world, they always accept a spiritual master. This is the thing. When these personalities come, Lord Sri Mahaprabhu didn't need to get a guru. He's already the Supreme Lord. But to set an example for everyone else, he took initiation from Ishvara Puri. So similarly with Prahlāda Maharaj, to set the example that look, even if someone's incredible devotee, you must take shelter of a spiritual master. That's the basic of steps. And I think there's still a lot of people within ISKCON that the years and years go by and they don't take a spiritual master. And you kind of feel like saying, like, how long are you gonna like go on the practice? When people want to like, cycle a marathon or something like that, or do Tour de France, and they're just practicing in the gym on the stationary bike. I'm like, okay, get off the stationary bike, now get on the road, get in the race, and actually start going towards the destination. Because our spiritual master actually said this. He said, before initiation, any Krishna consciousness that you do actually only counts as sukriti or good karma. It doesn't count as bhakti because you have no bhakti lata bij. The bhakti lata bij only comes from initiation. So it just counts as what do you call it, good karma. So I'm not sure about what happened after this birth. The only bit that I'd heard was that Vibhishan and Prahlāda Maharaj were both one of the four Kumaras. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Raj Prabhu. Does anyone else have any questions at all? If you want to raise your hand. Okay. The one that I had was basically, okay, Shisha Mataji? Shisha Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji,
Hare
Dandavat
Krishna.
Pranams. Regarding Draupadi story, when I was listening to that, does that mean that when we are facing any difficulties, we should not attempt to do anything to protect ourselves, or how do we understand that?
No, it's a very nice question. We obviously should do things to protect ourselves because Lord Krishna has given us intelligence. But we have to understand whatever we're doing is not going to protect ourselves. Krishna is going to protect us. Because at the end of the day, the Lord says he is the ability in man. And
Mm,
if we're doing anything, it's credit completeness is given to the Lord. Just like Arjun, when he's fighting the battle, Krishna
mm,
didn't fight for him. Krishna
mm,
directed him, I think you should go here. I think, and even many times Arjun was even directing Krishna. He said
mm,
that Arjun would like, because he couldn't obviously say Krishna turn right or left. There's no indicator on the chariot. So he would actually use his knee and press into Krishna's shoulder on one side and
mm,
press onto the other side. But whenever Arjun needed guidance, he would ask Krishna and he would follow the instruction of Krishna. Arjun still had to do the fighting. Arjun still had to kill those people. He had to do the action. So we should definitely act in our own welfare, but don't think what we're going to do is going to give the result. It's always that we're doing whatever we're going to do, whether or not it works or not, is in Krishna's hands. That's the main thing. That's what Shri Prabhupada is saying. If we think, oh, this material thing I'm doing will help me, that thing is going to make me better, or this thing is going to protect me, there's no guarantee of that. Just like that guy that survived that plane crash. There was,
mm,
I mean, why did so many other people die and then he got saved? There was nothing in there that he was doing necessarily that saved him. The Lord must have just saved him at the last minute for whatever reason. So many times there's things that we think we're going to do that are actually protecting us, whereas in actuality, it's the Lord that's protecting. So as long as we understand, and that's what one of the items of surrender is, to consider yourself completely under the protection of the Lord. And it's actually said there was a very nice someone there was a very nice text that went around recently about this Mataji that had a near-death experience. I don't know if you guys got forwarded that as well. She was a prolific like book distributor and stuff, and she was in Mayapur and she was looking after some of the sick people in the hospital there. And she's a very young person, I think maybe 30s. She ended up in the hospital herself and was almost dying. And then in that, she had a near-death experience where she's floating outside her body. And what happens is you get memory recall of your life in that instance. And she saw in many of the instances in her life where things miraculously she'd been saved in many situations, it was actually Krishna behind it that had made these things happen.
mm,
That she was ill at one point and suddenly this doctor came out of nowhere and saved her. And she realized that's actually Krishna. And in fact, Pundrik Goswami, there was a video I saw of him recently. He actually said when he was young, he was about 5, 6 years old, he actually got seriously ill and needed to go into hospital for surgery. And one of his uncles happened to be in the hospital at the time and was coming to visit him. And Pundrit Maharaj, you know, his family, they're Radharamanji's Pujaris, they're incredible Vaishnavas and Vrajavasis. So they got the Lord's protection. So when Pundrit Maharaj's uncle was in the hall in the lift, he was standing next to someone who looked like a doctor, but he wasn't a doctor at that place. And the
wow.
person said to him, "Oh, who are you?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm just a doctor from a different hospital." So he explained that Pundit Maharaj is not well. He's a young boy, 5 years old. He's going through extreme stomach pain. He's going to have an operation. And the doctor said, "Let me come and have a look at him." And he came to have a look at him and looked at his stomach, pushed his stomach a little bit, did a few little things on his stomach, and immediately Pundit Maharaj started to feel better. And when the doctors came to do the surgery, they were like, no, 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 he's feeling better now. And when they did an ultrasound scan, they realized everything is better. They were like, how did this happen? Then when they tried to find that doctor, he'd gone. They couldn't find him. And he's not a doctor from that place. They didn't know where this person came from. Maharaj has never seen him since then or before. So they're like,
Mm,
where is this person suddenly come from? Done fixed Maharaj and just left. So you can see many times we think that our endeavor is protecting us, but really it's Krishna behind the scenes. It doesn't mean we don't endeavor. We have to endeavor. Like Arjuna, we have to try and fight, but don't expect that the result is caused by our action. This is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachan. That your job is to do karma, ma phaleshu kadachan. Lord Krishna supplies the result.
Mm.
So I hope that
Thank,
clarifies.
thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. So Devi Mataji, would you like to ask your question?
Hare Krishna, thank you very, very much for
You're
today's
welcome.
class. In my understanding, what I have read, I might have read wrong, but what I understand was Prahlāda Maharaj was one of the one of five sons, which were very pious family, but he was he got to be in love with a prostitute and so on, and that makes him not to follow the principle and so on, and that's why he get to be born again and to have to go through what he went through to learn to the devotional activity and to be a devotee of the Lord. This is what I remember.
There are multiple accounts.
Yes, and
Remember,
I believe his name was Vasu Sarma,
yeah,
or
I
something like
have
that
I know there are
in
definitely
previous
multiple
life.
accounts.
What I want to say
Yeah.
is he had a kind of situation that he got even to be learned from the womb. It was not that he asked for it. He got to be learned. Narada Muni teach him while he was in the womb. You know what I mean? But there are some people, me, one of them, that the whole life, had believed in Supreme Lord, not the way, not in that religion or in that belief that I was born in, because it didn't resonate with me, so I couldn't understand it. I couldn't take it to me. But anyway, I believe that there is a Supreme Lord. I believe that in everything there is a reason, and so on and so on. And I search and I search and I search. I didn't get it until very late. I was above 55 when I finally got my first Bhagavad Gita as it is. So even though I was seeking, even though I wanted to know, even though I wanted to learn the truth about the Supreme Lord, I didn't get it until very late. Why? Prahlāda Maharaj was in the womb and got learned. So I mean, isn't it should be the time for it?
You know what? This question has been asked in a different way many times, and even like people ask when I'm preaching to someone, some people I will give the message and they'll immediately accept it, become devotees, stop doing everything. And some people you preach to, you can say till you're blue in the face, they're not ready to accept it. And my Guru Maharaj used to say, in order to actually execute devotional service, there's a required level of sukriti or piety which is necessary to even begin the process. It's a certain level of good fortune, you can say, meaning piety, pious activities, good fortune, in order to execute devotional service. It's not so easy. Bhakti is, my Guru Maharaj used to say, bhakti is not so cheap. So what I would say is that at the point in time where you started devotional service, your level of piety got to the stage where you're eligible for devotional service. Let me give you an example. So Dhruv Maharaj was a small boy. He 5, 6 years old again, same like Prahlāda Maharaj. He went to the forest to execute austerities. Within 6 months of doing austerities, he achieved darshan of Lord Vishnu. 6 months, this is unprecedented. 6 months of just doing austerities, and he achieved darshan of Lord Vishnu. So after this happened, sages of that time, they were questioning Narad Muni, saying, why is it that this Dhruva Maharaj, we've been doing tapasya for thousands and thousands of years. Remember, Dhruva Maharaj is at the time of Swayambhuva Manu. So this is when Lord Brahma's just been born. And this is the first Manu. This is the first Satyugs. It's like the purest of the pure time. People were living till 700s, thousands of years. So they said, we've been doing austerities for thousands of years. How is it that this small boy, is it just because he's a small boy and the Lord felt pity for him because he's a small child? I'll give him darshan after 6 months. So he's questioning, how is that fair? So Narad Muni said, fine, come with me. So he came with Narad Muni, and Narad Muni, let's get on this boat and go down the river. So going down the river. And as they're going down the river, they see from distance this white shining mountain. Beautifully shining mountain. They think, oh, this is a beautiful mountain. As they come close to this, they say, we should have a look at this mountain. It looks wonderful. So as they're coming, the ship goes past the mountain. And they think, wow, this mountain is shining. Look how much is shining. And then Narad Muni, tell us the rahasya of this mountain. What's the secret? And Narad Muni goes, do you want to know? And he goes, do you know what that mountain is? He said, these are the bones from Dhruva Maharaj's last so many millions of births. For so many millions of births, Dhruva Maharaj has been doing meditation. He only had 6 months left. That's why he achieved the Supreme Lord. So, achieving the Lord is based on particular piety and devotional service that you do. For yourself, your search that you were having for all that time led you to become purified, pious enough that when that Bhagavad Gita came, you were ready and accepted it. There's many others that would have got Bhagavad Gita before you that didn't become devotees. Many that would have got after you, they read the same passage maybe you did, it had no effect on. But when you read the Bhagavad Gita at that point in time, it had the desired effect. So there's a level of sukriti required. That's what Srila Prabhupada said. When you're preaching to someone and they don't seem like they're getting the message, give them Krishna Prasad. What does that Krishna Prasad do? It's not just because it tastes nice and they may start coming to the temple. It gives them sukriti or increases their sukriti. Srila Prabhupada even says, if someone is even anti-Krishna consciousness or anti the temple, just keep giving them prasad. Eventually, that prasad will make them more and more pious up until the point that they can start appreciating devotional sentiments. So it's not simply that you have the desire to achieve, you have to have the qualification. The only one difference within that is if some sadhu or some saintly person that you happen to run into, if he gives you his blessings or mercy, you immediately become eligible. That's the one caveat. And that's why I asked my Guru Maharaj once, how is it that Srila Prabhupada coming over to the West, suddenly all of these people that were never in any chance of existence could have been devotees? They were Yavanas, Malachas, beef eaters, cow eaters. How are these people becoming devotees? And my Guru Maharaj said, as one moment's association with a sadhu is more purifying than bathing in the Ganges. The minute that Srila Prabhupada came over and started associating with these, so many of their bad karmas were finished and they achieved incredible piety to be able to start Krishna consciousness. That's why sadhu, actual sadhu, not when we say sadhu sangh, people just assume it means, oh, I've got friends that are devotees and I go and have a chit chat with them on a Sunday about, hey, how's your life going? That's not sadhu sangh. Sadhu sangh is some advanced devotee. When you associate with them, that's when that massive change can happen in your life. So for every person, this is why, if you notice in ISKCON, it's so important for devotees to go out and preach. Because you could run into someone now, like yourself, who's got enough piety and just waiting for that person to give that person a Bhagavad Gita, and they read it and it changes their whole life. Book distributors will see this all the time. I've done a lot of university preaching and I've seen 13, 14 years of that. And I see many, many years later, people come to the society, even some of them knowing about Krishna consciousness, but they never really took it seriously. And once we started giving them prasad, we engaged them, some of them just take to it. It's amazing. So I wouldn't see it as an unfortunate position. That was your time. And you literally just make the most of the lifespan that we have in order to achieve Krishna. And there's a really important quote to someone, Ashla Prabhupada, is one lifetime enough to get rid of all our sins? Because they asked that question. And Shri Prabhupada angrily looks at them and goes, 1 second. He goes, when he goes 1 minute, Shri Prabhupada goes, one lifetime, goes 1 minute. Are you not reading Bhagavad Gita? Shrupa says, he goes, Sarva Dharman Pariteja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. 1 minute. Shrupa said, all it takes, you tell Krishna, I am yours. And he goes, Shrupa said, give up all your nonsense activities and accept Krishna activities. Krishna will deliver you. 1 minute is all it takes. So I hope that kind of answers the question, Mati.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prabhu. And sorry, if I can have a final question on there. I don't know your name, but it says iPad on there. So if you'd like to ask your question, if that's okay.
Is it me, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Janukana, yeah?
Oh, Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Oh, sorry, because I got a new I got a new iPad. That's probably
That's
why.
okay. Carry on.
Hari Bol. Hare Krishna Prabhu, so many questions have arisen from your wonderful class. Thank you so much. I'm just thinking about how does one do when we go out and or anytime you think Krishna protects me or us, how does it show itself? And the other part is when you surrender by saying I'm yours, how does it work? You know, because it's just like, you know, you say all these things and you perform all the devotional service, like going out doing book distribution and so on, and you are actually serving others. How is it serving you as an individual? In a sense, how does it show itself? Because you know, we suffer in the midst of it. We don't see it as suffering, but you do suffer.
You do stuff that you do.
Yeah.
And so what was the thing? How can you see Krishna, surrender to Krishna and see Krishna's protection wherever you're going? Well, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've had so many instances where sometimes, like on the road, if I'm driving, I'll just narrow, something will happen and I'll lose attention for a minute. And narrowly, something will just happen. I'm like, oh God, I almost had an accident there. Or you're thinking, oh my God, I lost concentration there. But yet you get protected. There's many, many instances where you can actually see that something coincidentally happened to save you, and it's not something that you intentionally did. That's one of the ways that you can see practically, okay, Krishna protected me in this instance, that instance, that instance. And in general, we should have to realize padam padam yad vipadam. This place is danger at every step. Now, if we just look at the environment in the world, we're very, 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 when I say fortunate, incredibly fortunate to be sitting in the United Kingdom. If we were having this class in Israel or Palestine or some of the Ukraine right now, you would not be enjoying the same. The problems that you think you have now would not be even be considered problems over there because tomorrow you will go on the street and get killed. So we have to realize that even the fact that we're sitting in this nice, safe country right now is the Lord's blessing because we could have been born or ended up in a totally different situation. So we have to look everywhere that Krishna is providing us not only protection, he's providing us everything. Everything, even the situation we're in, the world situation, the friends we have, the family members that we have, other people who support us, anywhere that you see support and positivity coming, we have to realize Krishna is providing that. But like I said in the verses, sometimes Krishna also gives a bit of misery and suffering. And the reason is to make us surrender more to him. And it's difficult to appreciate that. And that's why one person said, he goes, when you surrender into the Lord and you're saying, I'm suffering the reactions of my past karma, what past karma? When you've properly surrendered into the Lord, there is no past karma. And even Srila Prabhupada used to say, when he was suffering with illnesses, he said, Krishna, you know, when people do love bites, Srila Prabhupada said, this is just Krishna's love bite. Because sometimes he bites too hard. Srila Prabhupada used to say like this. So even Srila Prabhupada had suffering in his life, definitely he did. But he would think of it as, oh, this is just, and the way the devotee looks at it is, I could be suffering much more than I am. Much, much more, but Krishna has minimized it. And then when someone, as something positive happens to them, you say, well, I'm not really worthy of this. And Krishna has protected, given me more than I should have had. Now, people might say, I'll turn around and say, oh, well, that's just your way of looking at the world to make you feel like that you understand how things are happening. Okay, well, then what's the other way of looking at the world? Everything just happens for no reason. All you're going to do is just go around feeling sorry for yourself, then, aren't you? Oh, why is bad things happening to me? Well, we are in a prison. This is a horrible place. We should expect it's going to be horrible. And whatever happiness that we get, we attribute that to the Lord because ultimately, Prabhupada said this is not a place for a gentleman. It really, less and less, it's looking like a place for a gentleman. And we have to look that Krishna, whether we know or not, is always protecting us. At every step, he is making sure that my devotee is protected. He really, really is. And I think as devotees, as Vaishnavas, the more we read about Prahlāda Maharaj, about Dhruv Maharaj, about these other personalities, and even in the modern times, if we have a look at the lives of the Vaishnavas like Srila Prabhupada, and there's a very nice book written by Bhaktisiddhantaji's disciple called Saints of Vraja. I would suggest every person buy this book. It's by O.B.L. Kapoor, his name is. He's Adi Keshav Maharaj. He's a disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta. It's called the Saints of Vraja. These are Gaudiya Vaishnav saints who lived in Vrindavan in the last 150 years. And it literally tells you everything about their lives, the absolutely incredible things that happened to them while doing their bhajan in Vrindavan. And it actually tells you how to do bhajan like they do. One thing I'll leave you with is that what I found in my life has been one of the most useful spiritual tools that I've ever seen, other than chanting the holy name and doing kirtan and service, meditating on the Lord's pastimes. When you're chanting your rounds, when you're doing your Gayatri prayers, or even you just sit there not chanting, but you just meditate on the Lord's pastimes. See that pastime happening in your mind, because the way that we need to look after ourselves is at the time of death. There's a shloka in Srimad Bhagavatam which says by this king Kulashekar, he said, at the time of death, when the voice is choked up and I can't say your names, how will I be able to repeat your name at the time of death and go back to Godhead? So that it's called Saints of Vraja, the book is called. So I'll write it in the chat. Saints of Vraja by O.B.L. Kapoor. Kapoor or Adi Keshav Maharaj. I absolutely 100% recommend that. I completely lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
Trying to
Yeah,
meditate.
King Kulashekar. So, yes. So, at the time of death, you don't know whether or not you'll be able to say the name of the Lord. But according to Bhagavad Gita, the qualification of going back to Godhead is Antakale chamam eva smaran muktava kalevaram. That think about the Lord with full love and devotion when you're dying. So let me ask you this question. If you have never done that during lifetime, will you be able to do it at death? When you're in pain, when your loved ones are around you, everything, you're about to leave everything, will you be able to think of the Lord in a loving way then if you've never done it throughout your life? The answer is no. And if you look at this, I may share, I'll send it to the main Prabhu. You can share it amongst the group. This text message about this Mataji, who had a near-death experience, she said, I had spent so many years doing inattentive chanting that when the time came where she was going to die, she couldn't even remember what name to chant. She was calling out for her mother. And she had been a devotee for 25 years. 25 years, and she's an incredible book distributor, all that kind of stuff. But because throughout her life she hadn't seriously, attentively chanted and meditated on the Lord so strongly so that she's able to do it when she died, she couldn't actually do that when she had her near-death experience. So, this Saints of Vraja book, the sadhus in there that are all Gaudiya of saints, like what do you call it? Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj is in there. Many others are in there. They do meditation on the pastimes of the Lord. And they're visually seeing all of those pastimes in their mind. And I don't know if I should say this or not, but if you get the book, you'll read it anyway. What bhajan they do is that they imagine themselves in that pastime. And because those of you that are sufficiently advanced, that have got Brahman Diksha, if you know what your bhav is towards the Lord and you know what spiritual body that you have, you manifest yourself in that meditation in that body. So if you're a cowherd boy, or if you're a gopi, or if you're a manjari, you'll imagine yourself as that personality in that pastime. And in that, you can give service to the Lord. You can imagine yourself there while that pastime is happening. You actually focus and meditate on the beautiful features of the Lord. And that meditation has to be strong enough that when you're going through a difficult time. So I'll just share one last thing with you. So the reason I'm saying like this is because I had this happen to me recently. So a couple of weeks ago, maybe 2, 3 weeks ago, I started getting excruciatingly bad chest pain. I thought I was having a heart attack, and it wrapped around my chest and it was crushing my chest. And the pain was so intense, I couldn't even talk. And I had to be taken to hospital. And it carried on for about 30, 40 minutes. And I'm not that old, I'm only 44 years old. But this was happening, and immediately I just thought, okay, looks like the end. Okay, so what should I do? And all I could do was chant. And when I realized, I was like, okay, this could possibly be the end. I'm going to die. So I said bye to my family. My father went along with me and my Dharam Patni. And I sat with my wife a little bit, said goodbye to her, told her, okay, go and sit over there now. Let me concentrate. I was sitting next to my father and I went into my meditation and I was visualizing the Lord like I do in my meditation. And knowing that if I was to pass away at that time, that's the destination. He's the destination. That pastime's the destination. And according to Bhagavad Gita, that would be sufficient for me to go back to Krishna. But had I not practiced meditating every single day, when I do my gayatris, when I do my chanting, I would not have been able to concentrate like that. So thankfully, as it turned out, it was just back pain. So it was a muscle spasm in my back. So I was fully cleared, everything's okay. But the sensation, I thought I was going to die. So again, I would touch wood say the Lord saved me in that. So, but gave me the lesson that look, death can really come at any time. Let's not assume okay, we've got 70 years or 80 years or whatever it is. My Guru Maharaj used to say, "Do baaton ko bhool mat, jo chahat kalyan, Narayan ek maut ko duje Shri Bhagavan." Meaning, don't forget two things if you want liberation. One is the Supreme Lord, and the other is death. So we should always, this meditation on the Lord really will help at a time like that. And that was actually in that period of time, that was my refuge. I really felt secure in that. And even my father commented, he goes, "You looked so fixed up at that time." He goes, "I was surprised. Wow, Guru Sevak's really fixed up." Because I'm a very emotional guy. Like I love my family very, very much. And when anything happens to them and stuff, I'm the first one to start like crying and stuff like that. So my father goes surprised that I was so fixed up. I thought, well, if this is going to be the end, I don't want this whole life to be a waste. This is the test. This is the bit. This is the thing we've been chanting, serving, everything, preparing for. Concentrate. That's the goal. So I hope that kind of answers your question and elaborates a little bit.